something, to say something, to want something. That is purity. And as soon as you come to the conclusion that it is not pure, your motive is not pure, you deny it. There are many reasons for doing this. The most important is, of course, to increase sattva, to increase peace in yourselves. It makes you become principled. That leads to more self-respect, which equals to more strength, stability, solidity. So you become stronger. Character is not something that you get when you are born. It is something that you either obtain through education and upbringing, and when you're older and independent, you fine-tune it. And you, as a child, it just happens. People pump it into you, teachers, parents, etc. As an adult, as a yogi, you fine-tune it and you bring it into incredible heights. Later, you will see that purity comes back in another form. That you have to start listening to your heart, what you really want. And you stop doing the things that you don't want. You've always done, just because you were supposed to, expected to. And you just stop doing those things. Why? Because they don't resonate with you. They are not on your vibration, on your wavelength. And we are full of those kind of things that do not resonate with us, simply because we are not sensitive enough, or we do feel it on a lower level, subconsciously, but we just do it because we think we should. We don't even think about it, we just do it. Because we've always done so, our parents have always done so, the people in our surroundings always do so, so we just do it, ignoring the subtle signals inside ourselves that tell us that it goes against our grain. And in the long term, this will lead you to do what is deep inside your heart. Like I am teaching yoga from the heart, that is because I have refused to do everything that people expected me to do. And every time I tried, because I was already a sensitive human being, every time I tried, I would always end up in misery. Same with relationships that are not fit. You have all kinds of motives for having a relationship, and very often they are not right. The only factor that is important in a relationship is whether there is harmony. If you are in a relationship in which there is constant conflict, fighting over small stupid things, ego-related things, you can be sure that even if it lasts long, it will not last forever. Harmony is the most important. But, of course, we are young and full of hormones, so the most and primary motivation to have a relationship is sex. Sexuality is the strongest motivator in human beings. Next comes attachment. If you have a relationship for a little while, you can't live without each other anymore, you become attached. And so slowly but certainly you drown, kind of, in another person. I've experienced that several times. And it made the failure, time and time again, made me more resolved, stronger, to become totally independent. And based upon that, then you can be pure in a relationship. If there is no dependence anymore, no attachment anymore, then you have a pure relationship. if possible, and that is the ideal, we will talk about this later in detail, but unconditional love. You understand unconditional love? That is, for most people, the most difficult thing to do. Because there are always conditions. If you don't do this, then I won't do that for you. And I want you to brush your hair like this. And I want you, this dress looks stupid on you. Why don't you put on some other shoes? Or that is conditional. I'm giving some very stupid examples. But we are full of conditions when it comes to relationships. All the time. And that is the reason why relationships are always full of conflict. But a relationship does not have to be full of conflict. It doesn't have to be. And that is possible if you both understand this. If you understand the concept of unconditional love and you consciously try to implement unconditional love. That is difficult, but unconditional love means to let your partner go. To let your child go if you're a parent. Sting wrote a song about it. If you love someone, set him free. That is true. That is deep wisdom. And actually many songs, many artists are real artists are super sensitive beings. That's why they are always in tragic relationships. Because they are not yogi. They don't have the control tool of a yogi. Yogi is super sensitive like an artist, but has a control tool. Most artists end up in drug abuse, alcohol abuse, chaotic, tragic relationships, etc. Dramatic. They die at a young age. The real artist writes wisdom and sings about wisdom. And this is just a very simple phrase, just like Let It Be from John Lennon. Let it be. Very deep wisdom. And there's no coincidence that they sang, that they made that song. But if you love someone, set them free. If you have a relationship and your partner one day says to you, hey, I really feel like I have to go to Alaska. There is this hole in my heart. Something I have to work out, and I just feel I have to do that. The usual reaction is, no, you can't do that. You are my boyfriend, you are my girlfriend, you're married with me, whatever. That is the first reaction. And most of the times it leads to huge conflict. And you separate in an explosion of anger and based upon attachment. But if you really love that person, then you understand that if that person cannot fulfill the need he or she has in his heart, that person will not be happy. And why would you want to have a relationship with somebody who's not happy? Every day obsessed with something that he or she can't fulfill. So common sense brings us to this conclusion. That is very difficult as a human being. We are just simple human beings. We have our needs, we have our attachments, emotions. 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, we had a class. There was somebody, Tamara Kowalska. Anybody knows Tamara Kowalska? She and her husband lived here. Her husband was he played in a band, kind of like a rocker. But he was studying theology. He wants to become a pastor or a priest or whatever you call it. And she's still studying yoga by email with me. And she's practicing very diligently. She's very busy keeping her head above the surface, as we say in Dutch, staying alive. Because they follow their heart, they have a lot of hardship. So she's working 6 days a week in a coffee shop to get by. Her husband, I don't know, he's still studying maybe, but anyway, there's very little income. But she, one day, as I told you about the disease of dissatisfaction, people who are continuously practicing yoga will eventually feel restlessness occurring because something starts to steer in you that you do not recognize yet. That is what lies deeper in you. And so she felt that, and she told her husband, I have to go. And his reaction was, she wrote me that, and I was so happy to read that. His reaction was, well, Tamara, if you have to go, please go. And when you're ready doing the thing, come back and I'll be here for you. It is so rare that people can do this. It's probably because of his study of theology that he understood. As his hobby is also, he's a musician, songwriter, so he's been confronted with this many times. Maybe also in the text that he sings, so he understood. And as a result, or in the end, she didn't go. She continued to develop more, focus on the practice, staying alive, of course, surviving, but teaching yoga to people also. In Vancouver, I think, they live. And now they decided to start a shelter for street boys, street kids. Absolutely marvelous. You understand a little bit? And it's all in line with their heart. She with yoga, he with his theology. And they make a wonderful couple together, and they are going to make a wonderful difference in Vancouver over the next decades. Simply because they follow their heart. But I'm telling you about this because of this element of unconditional love. That her husband just said, well, Tamara, if you have to go, okay, just go. And see where it goes. Can you do that? Can you do that? I know I can. But it's difficult. I think you have to have had some experience with a relationship to learn about this also. Because especially the first relationship is very tumultuous, very attached and terrible. If you remember your first love, maybe. Horrible. No? No? You are so in love, which is very spiritual. You are floating on the clouds, seeing the world through pink glasses. But very soon attachment kicks in. And you ask yourself, where is she? What is she doing? Is she dating someone else? Who did you meet yesterday? Yes? That is destroying everything. Sure, you all recognize this. Let it go. It's not important. That is what you have to learn. Your attachment will lead to the opposite of what you desire or what you want. Your attachment leads to the destruction of the relationship, rather than making it more mature and letting it grow. Good. That is about purity. We will come back to that. Maybe you see also that all these subjects, the yamas and the niyamas, they're all related to each other. And they're all entwined with each other. The next subject we have is contentment, to practice contentment. And it always reminds me of my grandfather, my mother's side. Never known grandfather on my father's side, but my mother's side's grandfather, he was what you call a bon vivant. Do you know that word in English also? Bon vivant? He didn't care about anything. He my mom was born before the Second World War. He was a shoe repairman, and he just worked whenever he wanted to. And they had nothing to eat. They had to share one egg with 4 people, and when they got their ration of milk, they would add half of water to it. But of course, I didn't live at that time yet. But as a child, we visited always every Sunday, and he would sit in his chair with a big holy smile on his face, with one cigar he would smoke in a week on Sunday, with a glass of Geneva with sugar in it. And he would sit there on his chair with 7 children running around, and he would just sit there with a big smile. He never heard of yoga probably, but absolutely, totally content. And he died in his sleep also, very peacefully. He knew that he would die. My mom would go there every Wednesday evening, and on Wednesday morning when he was there, he said, I'm going to blow the crow's march, which means you feel that you are going to die. And that evening he died in his sleep. Very peaceful, totally content. No diseases, no. Of course, he should have taken care a little bit more about his family during the war, and after the war too, crisis. But anyway, just as an example of contentment, not of responsibility. He's a good example. Contentment. Contentment is something that you have to adopt yourself. That is why it is not a yama, but a NiYama. Non-desire is a yama. That is something you have to avoid greed. But contentment is something that you have to pursue consciously. And surely it is very much related to non-desire, but the instinct, the corner of the point of view is a little bit different. It is really something that you it's something that you do actively every time. People complain all the time. All the time people complain. My answer is always, when people complain, is look at the bright side. Look at what you have rather than what you don't have. Positive thinking, it is proven scientifically. They have done research, putting these things on people's brains and put them in a machine. People have a tendency to think negatively. It's just the natural tendency of the human being. Complain. People like to complain. They love to complain very often. So contentment is something that you, every time when you feel that you want to complain about something, every time when you feel you are dissatisfied with something, lacking something, you just simply, consciously tell yourself, hey, wait a minute. I have so much to go for. There are so many good things in my life. Why not focus on that? One thing that people very often forget or take for granted is their health. And then they have trouble in their, we all have trouble in our lives. We grow up, we have to learn to live. So we always run into conflicts, and we don't know really what we want, and the things that we do we are not satisfied with, and this is how we find our way in life until we find what we're looking for. But always complaining and always unsatisfied, and but if you have experienced being sick, in the sense that it debilitates you, then you know how terrible it is for people who don't have their health anymore. And if that's what you have the most important thing in your life. All the rest is only a matter of doing effort, and you can achieve whatever you want, whatever you set your mind to. Do you believe that? Do you believe that you can achieve in your life whatever you want? Whatever you set your mind to? It's true. But you have to be patient. So, I think we all have a task in pursuing what we really want in our life, whatever that may be. Maybe you want to buy an airplane. Well, then you go for it. And you will. But you have to be patient. You have to be patient and take care of the preparatory work. First go to a school where you can learn how to fly, study. And in the meantime you start earning money. And you will have an airplane one day. If you want. If that's what you really want. You have to be patient. And that's one of the biggest lacks people have, that is patience. Of course, you don't need an airplane. So when you practice contentment, then you say, well, I'd better buy a bicycle. But anyway, it is good to pursue dreams, and instead there's an airplane. Why not? Because the moment that you are able to have one, you're probably going to do something good with it. Maybe save people in the third world or something, or something constructive anyway. Can you do that? Practice contentment? It's a game, huh? You have to play. Because you will catch yourself many times having this tendency to complain and being dissatisfied. But the moment you are aware of that, you just have to say to yourself, hey, wait a minute. What am I doing? It's not fair. I have so much. And sometimes I advise people also when people are kind of desperate or so, and so engulfed with their misery in their life, I just keep a mirror in front of people and just say, look, you are miserable, but there are so many people in the world who are so much more miserable than you. So look at it from that point of view, and from there you start going up. There are many people in this world who are uneducated, have totally no control over their lives. If you want, you can take control of your situation and get out of that misery. But you have to learn a lesson from that misery. And from there, you can only go up. Today is the first day of the rest of your lives. You can only get better. You have to learn from that misery. That is why you are in misery. Because you have to learn. I think you all recognize this. The point is, if you do this as most normal human beings do that, it happens kind of subconsciously. And that means that the process is very protected, very long. And you will be 70 when you finally realize how to live your life happily, like my grandfather. But if you do it consciously, like we do in yoga, you don't have to wait until you're 70, you can start now. Because it is all simply a matter of awareness. To become conscious. That is why when we sit 15, 20 minutes at the end, we do not do a meditation technique yet, apart from listening to nada, but we just observe what is going on. These days they have a new modern term for that. It's called mindfulness. You're practicing mindfulness simply by sitting down, trying to be quiet and observe. And that may seem very unimportant, shallow maybe, but it is very far-fetching, very far-going. It changes people. Totally. Simply observing. Why? Because you start becoming aware of yourself. You start to see who you are, what you are. You thought that you know already, but you start seeing yourself in reality. Your tendencies, your reactions to things, and why they happen, and how it would be if you wouldn't allow them to happen. Because yoga is the science of life, but more than that, it is the science of the control of life. You have to understand that. That is what yoga is about. You don't believe me? Then look at the second sutra in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali that says Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. And if I explain this to you, you will not understand still what it means. But yoga is the control of the vrittis down until the level of chitta. Can you eat that? No. Chitta is the memory. Chitta is the memory, but not the memory in your mind, because the memory is not in the mind. The memory is in your energy circulation. There's a long story. The whole first module of the advanced course is about that, so I can't deeply explain that. A vritti is a memory stored in your energy circulation. To make it simple, we have a look at trauma, for example. Traumatic experiences. Traumatic experiences are very prevalent, of course, most of the times, but they can lie, they usually lie under the surface, yeah? But they get triggered by something. The memory itself, the memory that is imprinted in your energy circulation is called the samskara. As long as the samskara is dormant, so you are not aware, it is a samskara. Yeah? But especially with traumatic events that have happened in our lives, when we accelerate energy, in yoga we do that by meditation and practicing asana and so on, but in normal people's lives that happens by accident. They see something, people see something, or they smell something, or somebody says something to them, which triggers the samskara to be awakened. Then it becomes a vritti. So the vritti is the memory coming to life again. And you become, in case of trauma, of course, you become very emotional as a result of that. And you have no control over that. You become emotional, and so you start yelling or crying or self-destructive behavior, or there is a very violent reaction as a result of that. This is the definition of yoga. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the control of the vrittis up until the level of chitta, the memory. That means, practically, that you are aware of the samskaras, your traumas, or other memories. I'm using samskaras to make a shortcut explaining it practically. But you are full of memories, all kinds of memories. Also not traumatic, even pleasant memories. Every memory that comes up causes a disturbance, also pleasant memories. There are people who spend all their evenings in the bar drinking beer, mesmerizing about the good old days. But that is also not good. So good memories are just as bad memories in yoga, considered to be. No difference between good and bad. Every time a memory is triggered, it causes a disturbance. So as a yogi, if you stay on this path longer and longer, your sensitivity will increase to such a point that you feel the potential of the samskara awakening. And if you know that, you are ahead of it and you can prevent it from turning into a vritti, which will turn into a violent reaction emotionally. And that is what yoga is about, based upon the Yoga Sutras from Patanjali. And to get there, we have to do all these terrible exercises. And you have to listen to all my terrible stories that confront you basically with who you are and how you do things, and sometimes with things that you are not so happy about. This is yoga. And so actually, what you have to do next time when you go to another yoga school is ask the teacher, what does yoga mean? And then he should come up with this definition. Because this is the definition of yoga. But nobody knows. Many people don't know. And if they do know it, they know it literally, but they cannot really explain it. It takes a lot of study. The advanced course, the first module of the advanced course is the most terrible. Second and the third is the study of Patanjali, but the first module of the advanced course is the study of the science of soul. And that is about frittis and samskaras and buddhi and how you function on a subtle level. We think we have a brain, but in yoga, there's not just one brain, there are 4 elements that determine the functioning of you mentally. And so that goes very deep, and that is pretty tough study. I'm pretty capable of explaining it practically, but it's difficult to go through, especially because it's the first module. It's a little bit discouraging for the second module. But if you can come through that, then you will also much deeper understand this. And basically, real yoga study should be about this. Not just about exercises, accelerating energy, causing transformations, etc., but also how it is all affecting us. So I'm not sure if I told you this, that in Hatha Yoga it is said it takes 12 years to come to enlightenment. In Raja Yoga it takes only 3 years. That is theoretical, of course, but that is an indication of the difference between just practicing or practicing and studying. Because Raja Yoga is the study of the whole, including the lectures that we have, including discussions, including studying Hatha Yoga Pradipika, Patanjali, Science of Soul, etc. Books of Alice Bailey, also very constructive. Hatha Yoga, you just limit yourself to practice mostly. And so all kinds of developments take place, but you don't talk about them. You don't study about them. And because of that, you are not really aware of what is happening. You are basically subject to what is happening. If you study, you consciously know what is happening, and as a result of that, the developments go a lot faster. So that's why theoretically they say Raja Yoga leads to enlightenment in 3 years, Hatha Yoga in 4 years, 12 years, 4 times as much. Questions? No?
Actually, just about contentment.
Yes.
And the idea of that. I find I often think about the future quite a lot. I feel
Yes.
happy now. Is that also quite a large part of contentment, just being satisfied with the moment or living in the present moment?
That depends on what you see in the future.
I think it's because I'm always constantly thinking about future plans and what I'm doing, so I'm not thinking about so much now as I'm thinking about the next thing, or I'm not quite content because I'm always working towards something else. So I don't know if that comes under contentment or maybe if that's something totally separate.
It depends a little bit on what you pursue for the future. I'm always busy with the future too. That is important. Where do you want to go? You think I will stay like this, in this place, until I'm 80? I know it won't happen, especially not in Korea, because here everything changes all the time. And maybe after 10 years they decide to demolish this building and build a whole new grand plan, as they have for this area. They will sooner or later demolish except for the 63 building, they will demolish everything. They call it redevelopment. Huge project. I know that I won't be here, so I'm busy too with the future. But you have to contentment. What do you want for the future? That is the question. So if what you want for the future is very materialistic, say for example you just want to be rich, just for the heck of it, then you will be full of desire, and desire makes you sick, because that desire will be frustrated as a result of your struggles. But if your future planning is related to what are you going to do, where are you going, and how are you going to do it, and kind of fulfilling your dream, fulfilling your life, actually I should say. And that can be materialistic, but there is an underlying reason, important reason for that. Then it is not about greed and desire for wealth, but for certain stability that you need to build upon, to build your dream upon, to build your future upon. We all need that. I think if you have large ambitions, you need contentment, but not to destroy your plans. Because then you become just a tamas person. After 30 years you will be in the same place, just a little bit older, but no development, no growth, no progress. But that is not contentment. There are many people in this world. You see also particular cultures. People in Buddhist countries have a tendency to practice contentment in kind of as an excuse for laziness. And not only in Buddhist countries, also in Islamic countries. And it is no coincidence that most of those countries are poor. It's because people are rather lazy than active. And if there is an excuse, especially if you can hide yourself behind a god, then that is nice. You just sit in the sun and you smoke your cigar or drink your tequila or whatever. They don't drink. But Muslims say inshallah. So if something has to be done, they will just rely on God to let it happen. Inshallah means if God wants it, then it will be done. And Buddhists, they just smile and just enjoy life. That is a good attitude, but a little bit too far. With Europe, where people are very diligent, especially in the colder parts of Europe. In the southern part of Europe, Greece, Italy, southern France, Spain, Portugal, until a couple of decades ago, they were very poor too. Because of that attitude. Is it probably because of the weather? Or likely? But the colder countries, people are very diligent, but they know very much about contentment too. Like my grandfather. It's something that you have, it's a play. Because it is not black and white. You have to have your dream and your ambitions for the future. I have a lot. I had a lot. I'm very content now, but it's not where I want to be. Or, for example, eventually I wanna do this course for free, or give a free course for women who are married to Korean men, women from abroad, who are a little bit miserable and need. Yeah, something like that. But to do that, you have to have a basis. Then you can be totally free, and you can do really what your heart wants. So you are evolving. Don't let go of your ambitions for the sake of contentment, but be content with how far you have already gotten. And from from there you just go on. Life doesn't stand still, not for a dynamic person. I see in my family and friends I left behind in Holland, most of them are standing still actually. But you would never find them in a yoga class like this. Other questions? Contentment? It's just a concept. I saw while explaining, a lot of you I saw nodding in recognition, so keep this in your mind. Because it is, if you can practice a little bit of contentment in your life, it will make your life so much better. It's good to have ambition, but ambition, like the fritties, needs to be controlled to a certain extent. We will come back to that when we discuss the chakras, because it's very important in the Manipura chakra, because that is the center of our ambition and ego. And remember this definition of yoga. As a yogi, you have to know that if you want to take yourself serious as a yoga teacher. So this definition doesn't say anything about exercise, asana or meditation. Just control your tendencies basically. That is what it is saying. And to do that, to learn to do that, you have to do all those difficult things and study all those difficult concepts and be constantly confronted with yourself. So we learn about truthfulness, for example, so that you honestly look at yourself. And one important thing in this whole is that we have to learn to stop putting labels on things. This is bad, this is good, bad habit, good habit. Because human beings, especially when it comes to themselves, are often very harsh in their judgment. So I always say that you first have to become your own best friend. That is the first important thing for you to do in life. To stop being judgmental, starting with yourself. Based upon that, you can in the future become non-judgmental to people in your surroundings. But most people have a tendency to be really hard on themselves, and you have to stop doing that. Questions? More? No? Okay, let's start.